It's Tuesday, and this is Trekland HQ, and we're live. Yes, we are. Here at Trekland HQ version 3, actually. Well, version 2, I guess you call it studio. Hey, everybody, it is Larry Nemechek. From 11 to 93 is Respect for 60s TOS Star Trek on the way back. Episode 343 of Trekland Tuesdays Live with me, Dr. Trek, here, coming at you from the heart of Trekland and Portal 47 for some sanity, clarity, and the big picture, or a bigger picture anyway, in all things Star Trek. Yes, it's our second week here in the new place, so it's still a work in progress, like I said, but it's so good to be back with you all again for another Tuesday. We are global around the world right now, so if you're finding your way here, I'm so glad you did. And if you're one of our regular TTLers, you know what to do. Everybody sound off in the chat. Let's know what's happening, what's going on, how's the weather, how is your trek? Are you sneaking in French editions of Prodigy Season 2? Good grief. Never a dull moment in this franchise, is it? Didn't see that one coming. Didn't have that on my French bingo card, Trek card for 2024. No, it's all kinds of things are happening. I'm so glad to be here with you, Dr. Trek. So yes, populate the chat. Let us know you're here. And remember, and if you're new, if you're in chat, Facebook, you're only going to see the Facebook chat, but Twitch and YouTubers are going to see it all. And of course, if you're on YouTube, always appreciate the super chat. Little donations, a little silver helps us out here with all the costs around streaming, which are not going down, I can tell you that. And of course, just everything in general as we try to grow the Trekland domain here. Now, if you are new to the show, I'm going to talk a little bit here on a little bit of a platform. Then we'll take a micro break, and then I'm going to dive into the chat. So don't be discouraged if I'm not picking everything apart here to begin with, okay? I've got to get this off my chest, and then we'll get back into your comments. In fact, I back scroll. In fact, we have a legion of volunteers who marked the back scroll moment in the chat. But yes, I'm here on another sunny day after days of rain here in SoCal, after a short visit with Cadet Alice for the first time here, enjoying the new place. And in fact, I just realized, can you see back there on right back here on the big Trials and Tribulations tribble? She left Dal and Gwen behind. I just realized that a minute ago. Oh, I'll have to call and let her know. Anyway, so much going on, again, usually in a healthy, growing franchise. Today, again, hang on with me. And I should point out, too, that it is spring season with all this great weather. Guess what I'm doing this week? Well, one of the things I'm doing this week is I've got my first Trekland Treks of the year happening. So, just a reminder, people are out and moving, and I think there's a real restlessness out there. I think finally the pandemic is over, and I don't know what it is, but I've had more requests and people want to start talking about treks. I don't know, 6, 7, 8 here just since we moved, and things are settling in. So don't forget, a Trekland Treks can be your custom away mission to some of the Trek film sites, not the stages, but the film location sites. Love doing that. It's kind of a quirky little thing stumbled across a couple of decades ago. Well, 10, 15 years ago. And it's a lot of fun, Wholly new, totally different way to experience your fandom and in a real life experience, a real life away mission. And that said, one of the things that we've lived through the last week, well, today, I should also say, happy memorial birthday to Leonard Nimoy. Leonard would have been 94, 93, 2032. Yeah. Same as our dear Captain Kirk, William Shatner. 4 days ago, a lot of hoopla over the annual accolades. When they were both alive, it was amazing how the two of them were just 4 days apart in the same year. You know what I mean? 1931. So yes, Leonard would have been 94. Bill was 94 4 days ago. And, I always talk about the pendulum swinging. Well, the pendulum swings for everything in life. The only thing constant in the universe is change, or am I paraphrasing Spock there? And that includes not just the things we deal with in life, but yeah, our perceptions. And okay, on the list is our Star Trek and our fandom. And it was amazing to me. I've been a fan for a long time, you might have noticed, but even just the gap between the original series and Next Gen. And then as the Berman era progressed over 18 combined seasons, from 87 to 2005, that pendulum in fan taste and expectation and the world around us that was shaping it, it's just the culture. Pop culture, yeah, but culture in general. Think how designs, thank God things change. Whether it's fashions or fonts. How would we date the decades, if we didn't have changes? How would we do time travel shows without having obvious fashion and architecture and vehicle and fonts, music? How would we do time travel without all the visual cues of things that changed visually in all the ways? Okay, well, phew, thank goodness for that. We wouldn't be able to do time travel. People would always just be looking at their watches and pointing at calendars, looking at log lines, timelines, timestamps on their computers, if they had computers. No, it's a thing that's obvious that, of course, things evolve and change, and it's been fun to watch the pendulum swing. The first time this struck me was in the 90s, when suddenly I realized the original series was old and dead and tired. Those next generation upstarts, they went from being, how dare they encroach on our beloved Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, to the cool kids on the block, and Kirk, Spock, McCoy, and Scotty, Uhura, Sulu, Chekhov, Chop. They all became the also-rans. It was sad. In fact, it was, sadly, a promoter who brought them out to the great acclaim, the Fab Four tour, and made them relevant again at the height of the Next Gen in the late 90s. Dave Scott, that later on kind of imploded his company. But he became big by getting Jimmy and George and Nichelle and Walter out on tour. It was called the Fab Four Tour, and it came just as it was starting to feel like the inevitable was happening, and they were kind of being cast aside by the very fandom, the very franchise they had helped to pioneer and build, and finally get their due for all the ways they contributed to the original series, even in the ways of the 60s as far as billing and being featured and being paid, especially. The movie era was great for them. The 90s, not so much, until that comeback. And suddenly, by the time we got to Trials and Tribulations, and we had the 30th anniversary in 96, and Flashback too, yeah. Suddenly, the 60s weren't so old and tired and creaky. And then fast forward another 10 years. Oh my God. Speaking of old and tired and creaky, the whole Berman era sliding into Enterprise, there was franchise fatigue. I want to say it's producer fatigue, but surely the audience was splitting. Nothing rose to the fervor of Next Generation. There were no Voyager or DS9 movies. Enterprise sadly did not catch on. There were a lot of reasons for all of that. And a lot of it were not the series' faults. A lot of it was studio driven, and it was the hands of the franchise. We'd gone from syndicating to little broken UPN, and there's a problem right there. So many reasons, but the fact is that suddenly those 60s didn't look old and tired. The phrase retro cool was so prevalent. It was so everywhere that is where, when J.J. Abrams showed up out of the blue for a franchise that everyone thought would just kind of go away and rest for 10 or 20 years. Remember that? Everybody predicting that, well, Star Trek's going to go off the same way that Star Wars had done. It was weird how who in Star Wars swung opposite the high points of the Trek years. One would be fallow when the other was at its height. And yet, here comes JJ, and they're looking for how to bring, he wants to do it. Of course, he's doing it now, we know, as a stepping stone to really get to Star Wars and to really control a franchise that he thinks is at low ebb. Okay, another sidebar. Bottom line being that suddenly everything 60s was retro cool again. That pendulum had swung back to the point where, how do you bring back the franchise? Go back to the basics. So suddenly Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, alternate Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, were the big deal again. And everything in that time frame, through a fake universe lens, was the hot ticket, right? Because no one knew where to take the franchise. So if while we're flailing around with a split corporate home and a closed experience in Vegas, and the perception that it was a tired franchise, we'll go back to the sure thing. And then it took another, 10 years before the oomph came along, the technical marketing money oomph came along to start new shows and explore new worlds and new civilizations and new time frames and new formats. So that's that pendulum swinging all over the place. 1 minute you're the hot thing of the day. 1 minute you're yesterday's old news. The next day you're back in style as being retro cool. And the next, you're the only hope for bringing back the otherwise tired franchise. And I noticed that on a personal level. I'm saying all this in part sparked by Oh Captain, My Captain's dear birthday 4 days ago. All kinds of universal well wishes, as it always is. But I'm just saying, if you have been awake the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, you know that William Shatner has always been outspoken on his Twitter feed, on his socials. And you know that sometimes that's been problematic. You know that as we got socially conscious, as whatever pejorative, somebody's good term woke is somebody else's curse word. But whatever you're going to look at this as, you know that sometimes the best way to put it might be the dear captain put his foot in his mouth a few times. Some of my good friends I know have been spotlighted just in passing. Nothing passing. But when you're Shatner and you're out here in greater fandom, fan media spokesman, even activists, even activists from any of the other shows, and occasionally you run counter to a statement, a blurb. I don't really understand all of it. Obviously I don't follow Shatner's Twitter, and it's slacked off. He is 94 now. And he does have other people over the years running his account and speaking for him at times. That's gotten muddied over the years. But there have been times when he's gone somewhere he shouldn't. In fact, to the point where, well, this is my point. Recently, he said Gene Roddenberry would be turning over in his grave if he saw modern Trek. Basically, at the time, 3-4 years ago, implying what we mainly had by then was Discovery, upsetting an awful lot of people. If they weren't absolute, just diehard Discovery fans, they were at least a little upset to see the original face of the franchise speaking ill of some of the newer shows. Like, well, it's not my favorite either, but you don't have to go and say that. That's a little extreme, Bill. Well, the truth is, there's been this online activity. There's been this online reaction. Can't say that I'm not surprised. There's times when I've winced myself. And yet, the guy is still going. I keep saying they wind him up and he keeps going and he will never stop until someone forgets to wind him up. He's just like the Energizer Bunny. If ever there was a human equivalent of the Energizer Bunny, it's that man. It's amazing. He's been making the rounds again. And something, I don't know if it was, of all things, his space flight. But something in the last year, it seems to have changed that. I don't know if it's the fact that he's survived to 94 and is still going. Saw him the other night on Jimmy Kimmel, the talk shows. Those videos are up. His lines are still at conventions. He's still in demand. You still have to wait in line to see him. And here's the thing. Since the space flight, it's easy to broad brush this, but I don't know. Has the captain mellowed a little bit? Was it his space experience? Because this is it. I know people are still out there. I know memories die hard. But it feels like some of the, at times, very understandable, the reaction to Shatner, or like get out of the way, old man. I'm not going to keep worshiping you. Chris Pine's a lot younger, and so is even Paul Wesley if they keep working on his Kirk look. I mean, forget the other shows in comparison, though. Does it feel like some of that angst, some of that ambivalence, some of that no longer abject hero worship that was around Kirk that Shatner for so many years as the original man, as the man, does it seem like the patina of that has brightened a little bit? Does it seem like the shine is back on Shatner? It feels like this year's birthday greetings were more heartfelt. And I don't know if that's because we passed the late 80s, 90s, and oh my God, the man is 94 and still going. If it's just a wow factor, kind of awe and respect that he's still ticking, though he takes a licking. Timex. John Cameron Swayze here. No, I don't know. It just feels like for all the, I saw birthday, like you'd always get, like all the actors get, the internet is flooded for a day. And when you're at the pinnacle of the mountain for longevity, how long you've been doing it and what's your base, the base is still out there. There's still long lines to see him when he flies into a con for a day and maybe does 3 in one weekend and flies from city to city to cram 3 in one weekend. Still amazing. And still popping up to do announcements and appearances, still running the Hollywood show, the horse show, his charity, and still promoting this tour, his documentary, doing all the promotion for that right now. And is that like, do we have new fans who maybe just didn't live through the problematical social media of the last decade or so at times? Because here's the thing. I couple that with an experience I had just a couple weeks ago at Star Trek San Francisco, at the Creation Show in San Francisco. I talked about it in our return last week. The video is on my YouTube channel, but I'm talking about, on one end, if you're wondering where this title comes from 11 to 93, it should be 11 to 94 now that I think about it. From 11 to 94, on one end, Shatner at 94. On the other end, 11-year-old Beatrice, that young, amazing entrepreneur, artist, with her own booth, her mom in the background, but she doing most of the work. And brazenly saying, having been pretty out there with her precociousness, and her maturity, and talking about her, I asked her what her favorite Treks were, and she's, DS9, I think she said, maybe Lower Decks, but her favorite of all, and she knew what she hadn't seen. She would rattle off the seasons of the series that she hadn't seen yet. I haven't seen season 7 of DS9. I haven't seen, very specific. She knew exactly all the series and how many seasons they had and what she hadn't seen. But overall, Beatrice said, this 11-year-old, said her favorite series was the original series, which left us all gobsmacked. If nothing else, for the familiarity of the quality of the film stock, right? And the effects and all the other things people say now. And I said, why? And, the Chamber of Commerce for TOSville couldn't have written this any better. The marketing arm of Paramount Global could not have put it any better, because she said, and Beatrice was too pure to have been so cynical that she just found the words and glommed onto them. If you watch that video, she says, I love all the Star Treks, but to me, there's more to Star Trek than just action and visual effects. She says, I love the original series because it was all they had was the actors and the characters and the stories. And that's what made Star Trek great. And I just love the original series most for the actors and the characters and the stories and the themes. Well, yes, that's the given tagline for the show. What I told her And what tends to be the truth is most people coming along and, oh, I don't know, the last 10 or 20 years, just the age of everything, even with the remastered effects, which now are looking very late aughts, right? But just the age of everything, the acting style, much less the visuals, has left so many people unable to watch, even though they want to. Now, I think part of that is life experience, because I think there's an awful lot of TV and movie cinema history that you're going to wipe out as not watchable if you're going to go by some of those things. If you can't get yourself in the context, are you going to sit down and ignore and walk out of a Shakespeare play because that Elizabethan English is just so old? Why put up with it? It's, historical things are done for a reason. The production styles are there, and it's just the fact that versus theater, which is fleeting, cinema's recorded on film, and TV shows hopefully are recorded on film. So we have a pristine copy of the era, and boy, do we see things on film differently as each decade goes by. Yes, we do. It's a whole fodder for a whole field of academic study and criticism. But then again, things become, the cream of the crop rises to the top that way for a reason. And there's Beatrice, 11 years old, getting it. And something clicked with me. I don't know, between Beatrice, are there more like her? Now, hold on. Are there more like her out there of any age? Are the people who 10 years ago said, I want to, but I can't watch it. It's just so hard. It's just so 60s. Has 5 or 10 years of life experience. And I don't know, watching Casablanca, Dr. Zhivago, I don't know, has watching different eras of film stock and style maybe broadened their threshold of what is standable? Has any of this part of a wave? Is it just another matter of the old pendulum swinging back to where, on one hand, it feels like there's a little less standoffishness toward the original captain? Does it feel like maybe we're swinging back to everything 60s? And I know I'm talking broad differences here. I'm talking about a specific person over here with Bill, talking about the whole series over here. But I just wonder if there's something in the air. Have we survived a pandemic and moving ahead and now enjoying all the fruits of all these Star Treks coming and going? Survived a labor strike in a pandemic that exposed so much inequality, if not inefficiency, in so many avenues of society and commerce and arts and culture. Are we seeing things with enough fresh eyes that we have turned a page, turned a corner? We've just all aged a little bit. And even the young kids coming up might be open to watching. I know Cadet Alice was transfixed by tribbles. That's an easy one. Can't wait to show her the Horta, which was her dad's favorite when he was little. The Horta, the Horta, the Horta. I used to worry that I was not being a good parent by skipping the tribbles and going right to indulging them with the Horta. That's a little healthy horror, though, I think. Yeah. What do you all think? Am I onto something here? Did I just find 2 random points that don't really connect, or is there something going on? Do you feel like, in the bigger picture, Discovery is ending? Strange New Worlds is blossoming. We're all fighting to see, hoping to see more Prodigy and Lord. A lot of the fears and anxieties associated with having new Trek have kind of been blown out the window. Now, whether or not Section 31's movie or the Starfleet Academy series, whether they're the best ever or just, B+, or like anything else, they have their A shows, they have their C- shows, their series. The window is smaller. There's only 10 episodes a season, of course. So you've got a lot less wiggle room to have a glitchy episode. And if they stick with the serialized format, that's a whole different, domino stack, a whole different Jenga tower as far as individual episodes within the greater whole, the whole run. But do you feel like we've kind of climbed a mountain and can look back at where we have been these last few years, and we're ready to plunge into another one as these new series come up, as the older ones age, Discovery and Picard both, and we're waiting on Legacy? I don't know. Somehow, I wonder if all that is tied into, are we really turning a corner? Is the pendulum swinging back? And the original series and everything from that, it's certainly more precious. We only still have Bill and Walter and George with us now. That's a fact, and that's the old eternal clock ticking. Walter Koenig is all over the place now. It's amazing. This was so sad. I remember 2 or 3 years ago, he was at Vegas, and a couple of us were having dinner at what I always called the Rio Denny's, which is now gone. The space is there, but they've remodeled in the big Rio remodeling. It's Smedley's or Headley's or something. I don't know. But I remember looking over and seeing Walter eating all alone. And this was before his wife Judy had passed away, but he had come to Vegas by himself. And there were a couple of us eating. And someone said, "Oh, Walter's over there all by himself." And and nobody else had that. I just stood up and I said, "Well, I knew him." I said, "Well, this isn't, I'll see if he doesn't want to, fine." And he was so thrilled to come over. He didn't get up and dance on the table, but he said, "Yes, thank you." Came over and we had a great conversation and ate. And that was a time when, I don't want to. So it's been great to see him popping up so much recently. And more on that hopefully in a couple of weeks. But I just feel like just the preciousness of the age now, and that pendulum has come back. People are doing a little bit more research and analytics into the original series. Some of the behind the scenes digging deeper is happening. Of course, we've been trying to do that with Portal 47, and even before that, some primary research. So I don't know if just the passage of time is helping that pendulum swing back. It just feels like, just like fashion and cars and fonts, art styles, it's just inevitable. Every 8 or 10 or 12 years, that pendulum's going to swing visually and maybe aesthetically as well, intrinsically as well. I don't know. Maybe I've just dreamed all this up. It just felt like Bill Shatner's well wishes on his birthday were far more heartfelt and joyous than in years past, looking across the swath. Now, I have to say I've been a little distracted. This whole move thing has been pretty, not just exhausting, but also diverting. But I would say in the last week or so, things have started to calm down. And I'd like to think I was back out here in the mainstream. So, I don't know. I do not know. It just feels that way. Among everything else, among the shifting winds here in Trek world, but even in the greater world, it just feels like we're in for something. May even be tying that into things political. I don't know. We'll see, though. For right now, I'll just keep it there and be anxious to see what you all say today. Yes. And in fact, if you're with me this far, you're watching later, please go ahead and comment now on YouTube anyway. We'd love to hear from you still. And if you're watching later, welcome. And maybe you can join us sometime live on a Tuesday. Excuse me. So, yes, let's cogitate on that a minute, while I make sure to thank, as usual, all of our Patreon folk. Okay? I have a very simple Patreon, patreon.com. I want to thank our TTLers, Diana Hopkins, Robin Wilson, Lawrence Todd, Joshua Patton, Justin Porteous, Glinda Bruton, Chris Jiggins. Why do I do that? Pranakasha Productions, Comedy Forecast, and Indra Jasimski. And our live wires, Robert McLean, Byron Bailey, J.R. Poole, Javier Gunjansson, Alan Hoensi, Dave Gregory, Tobias Rex, Donna S. Runyon, Greg Wickstrom. Sorry, Greg. Greg's one of our newer folks. I haven't said it a million times. Greg, you deserve it to have Wickstrom said correctly. Oh, and Casey Shafsky too. Thank you all so much. If you'd like to help out, and we're here at the end of the month, it's about to come out. It's very simple. It's a Patreon, patreon.com/Trekland Live. I just have a simple $5 and $10. You're free to pile on some more if you want to, but $5 and $10 for the shout out. And yes, I need to get back to distributing our first generation Portal 47 interviews to those with backstage creatives, which is, what Portal 47 is all about. So looking forward to getting back on that. And again, if you have an itch to come out to the greater SoCal area and maybe see those iconic location sites, be happy to take you there. You pick it out, you design it with my help, and then I am your chauffeur, I'm your prop wrangler, I'm your cosplay director. I'll do your camera work, whatever you want to do, you and your group, or solo. TreklandTreks.com. Better get in. Operators are standing by. Well, not really, but it is filling up. Of course, it's a Tuesday. That means it's a Trek Files when they're in season. We're barreling down to the end of our 11th season. Can you believe it? And this week, our guest is none other than the great birdlet of the galaxy, Eugene Roddenberry himself, the great son, who we're talking about some of Gene's notes to our Bennett when they were wrangling over Star Trek 3. Star Trek 3, its 40th anniversary this year, but early in the process, we are talking about the same memo we opened. Got a huge reaction from people. One of the biggest reactions in our limited way of measuring on Trek Files that we've seen, and wanted to bring it back, and Rod wanted to talk about some specific bits and his dad's notes and reactions. So don't miss this. It's up today. Of course, we're the only podcast with documents. They're all there at Facebook, at our Facebook page too. And what can I say? The socials are still the same, gang. I'm still on Twitter X, Larry Nemechek. It's Trekland on YouTube. Please like and subscribe. The Instagram is there. A lot of fun stuff lately. And yeah, Facebook. And hey, portal47.net, jump in. We've had some new folks come in since the holidays. Getting the guest list restarted. We might have to postpone guest night tomorrow night, gang. The one I was hoping would come through had to put me off. So we will jigger. We've got to catch up, everybody, and we will get our quota in, all the portales. So that's going to wrap it up here for now. If you're watching us again on YouTube, this is the end of the road for you later viewers. So if you're live with me, hang on. We'll be right back and dive into the chat. But if you're going away, please, please, please do all the things. Stay healthy. Check your sources, coming and going, and stay woke that way. Be open to what you may not have ever heard before in life, as long as it's credible and sourced right. And then try not to be too angry when you find out there's something else they never told you. Yeah. Trek well, everybody. Okay. Let's dive into this chat. Okay. Doritos are all gone. Let's see what everybody's up to today. I don't know. You tell me if I made a mountain out of a molehill there. It just struck me, but it's good to see everybody. Hi, Di. Hi, Dave and Michael and David, Justin. Don't know who all. If you didn't make the big comeback last week, that's cool. So many people stopped by last week. It was amazing. Let's see. We mark the back scroll out of love, not haste. Well, thank you, Dave, for whatever the reason. Hey, Comedy. I don't think I saw you last week, so good to see you now. Maybe. And Andy, you too. Same to you. Thank you. Thank you. I think, yes. Yeah. It's the same tone, and we've got more work to do back there. There's a gap. See, I'm hiding it with my head. We have a wall to put in to wall off the office/archive/warehouse from the dining room. Yes. So thank you, Andy. It's my first time to show them to you. Yeah, and I've got natural light coming in here at the right angle as opposed to the natural light that was too hot in the other place. Yeah, happy birthday, Leonard. Rest in peace. The final days of Shatmoy. Rest in logic. Well put. Hey, John X, I see you there. There you go. Yes, Melanie. Good to see you whooping. Oh, John, sure, easy for you to say. You predicted there'd be a movie in 5 years. Turned out to be 4 years. There you go. Oh, Christoph, I'm sure you'll catch up just fine. Oh, William, no, you're awesome. Yeah, there you go, Melanie. How many people know Leonard's middle name? Leonard Simon Nimoy. Yes, indeed. Yeah, indeed. The day he passed, I was in a big annual conference with my coach that I studied with to create Portal 47 and make it go as a viable business. So I always felt like it was like something special about that day. We were sitting kind of in a small ballroom at tables, and I got a text from my friend Lee and said, "I'm so sorry to hear about Leonard." And I jumped up and had to go deal with that for an hour or two with the socials of 2015. But I will always remember that the weekend I was finally going to put all these ideas and resources together and channels, it was almost like it was just like a sign from afar. And I didn't know Leonard at all. So it's not like he was talking to me, but yeah. Yes, I'm right. So one of these days I'm going to do my math. 4 minus 1 is 3. 93 for both of them. And Bill is still here to talk to us about it. My title is correct. I don't know. Memory dies hard. Mine says otherwise. There's Casey. Good to see you, my man. Good to see you at San Francisco, too. Hey, Willie. Good to see you. And Christian. And Jay-Z. Well, there you go. Many people have said that. And I can see that over the years where that comes across. Again, there's been problematic angles to his. I've heard him apologize for I've heard him clarify. In fact, he recently clarified his comment. I should have put this in the main show. He clarified his comment about Gene would turn over in his grave, and he meant to say he was talking about the way the shows are done, not the wokeness of Discovery. And he was surprised that people took it that way. And with the interviewer describing it so thoroughly, I don't think it was a put on. I think it was really a misunderstanding and, bad choice of words on his part, or a vague choice of words on his part. I really think Legacy is starting to catch up with him. Yeah. If you haven't seen that on my channel, go check it out. I know, Mary. I'm sorry. I was just doing a brain fart. Sorry. It's one of those things in the moment. I've since corrected myself. We'll see how the final copy online looks. Well, see, John, this is what I mean. It's the one show. Of course, it'll always be at the core. Of course, it'll always be the series that launched everything else. It's no longer the one show people need to watch. That's true, too. Although I would still say they should. And I will still say that the book everyone needs to read is at least still The Making of Star Trek. And I would grab it off my shelf, except I don't have all the shelves restocked yet. I would still say The Making of Star Trek, Stephen Whitfield Poe, that classic is still very much relevant. Now, it's also the show that more people say is unwatchable. Well, that's true. I'm just saying that I think that's going to pass over time. For one thing, the next generation is already seeming to our Gen Zers as slow and ponderous. And that will age all you folks who are watching now. So, get ready for that one. So they're all going to be looked at as historical pieces of their time. It will no longer be just the original series that gets looked that way. And once we're over that hump, then just the same way that now we have other animation besides TAS and people can see other styles. We've now got more than one style of serialization and an evolution of it. So, the more we get populated, the more we can see, not so much diversity, but we see the variety and we see evolutions of development. So I'm just going to say, I think eventually that whole concept about the 60s is so unwatchable, I think eventually that will pass too, as people get rosy, they get sentimental about all these older shows. And I think this is true too. I think S&W has made everything fresh. So even the people who are a little, I don't want to say shallow, but they're just new to it, it's made it inviting. And the fact that we've gone back to, there are some pretty glib, wacky concepts in Strange New Worlds that are very TOS-like. And the wacky thing comes out and then it's dropped. And the tones are all over the place with the episodes. That's a strength of Star Trek and the strength of the episodic, the standalone shows. And people are seeing that again. And Next Gen was so smoothed over on the patina there. We didn't have outlandish, crazy shows on TNG the way we did. Well, that was a Rick thing, right? We didn't have outlandish soundtracks, sadly, really moody things, and the overall tone was a little squished. So if you had comedy on Next Gen, it really had to fit and it really had to, go there. DS9 and Voyager, not so much. TNG, though, was very, because it began with that calculus, that variable recipe of not being the original series, to stand alone. And eventually people didn't realize just how different it was going to be anyway. But the concepts and formats were way different. And it had to grow and evolve. And that was a very smart decision. But you get to a point where you don't have to run away from your past. You can embrace it. You can use the universe and not worry so much about individual series attracting an audience, and just do the storytelling that fits, right? But definitely Strange New Worlds is part of that. Well, Rose, pretty radical idea there, Rose. Well, yeah, of course. It's different than all the folks who say, well, don't bash on Discovery because without Discovery, we wouldn't have had this new wave. There would have been the new show. The point is, there had the original spark of the franchise never got to the point we're talking in words like franchise, then none of this would have happened. There would have been a first TV show after the fallow times of some kind. What was it going to be? There's too much money in the pipeline. There's too much money momentum at work there. Yes, I totally agree, Dave. Walter K is a force to be reckoned with, and he is a sweetheart. And he's really enjoying his Seventh Rule chats. He is. Hey, Don, good to see you back. Us well. 93rd. Right. Hi, Sherry. Good to see you there. Well, John, you'd rather see a Takei autobiographical movie instead of Shatner's. Well, from your lips to the great bird's ears, we'll see. I have to think that's got to be, I have to think George and Brad have got that on their agenda somehow, some way. My God, think of all the aspects to George's life. Just the internment camps, and then the whole coming out and growing up closeted as a kid, and then in Hollywood and being an Asian actor trying to do something besides evil stereotypes. So many components to his life. It's incredible. Yeah. Yep, Plushy McCoy's right there. Everybody's there. Sherry, that's funny. There you go. Boom. Interesting way to put it, Christian. Glad to see Shatner, Takei, and Koenig getting their flowers. Yes. You can't, how do you can't not have honor your pioneers, your landmarks, the reason for the season. Oh, thank you, John X. Always appreciate a kind word about Trek Files. Yay, Trekophile, you are. Hey, Narda, good to see the Outback checking in. Always great. Wait, what? Am I guest starring in any other podcast soon? Your collabs are epic. My collabs. Actually, there's a certain live show that's on Monday nights that's on the same network as the Trek Files. You might want to check that next Monday. For one. But thank you, John. I good. Yay. Sometimes I feel like I'm saying the same thing over and over and over again. Partly I have to realize that the different shows have different audiences, so that's not a big deal. But that's interesting. Thank you for that. Hydrate. What did I do? Scroll back. Did we have a good week? Oh, yes. Yes. We had Alice here for 3 days. Always great. She helped me put up a shelf. She helped me take down the phone that the previous owner had in the bathroom. It's very cute. Oh, come on, Sherry. What is the white blob between Plushy McCoy and Murph? Sherry, what do you think is the white blob between Plushy McCoy? Sherry, please tell me you've been keeping up with Lower Decks. Moopsie. This is a 3D printed, homemade Etsy style Moopsie given to me, I think, by Lisa, the promoter, the fan chairman, Lisa Meese at Starbase Indy. Definitely came from a Starbase Indy, and I'm pretty sure it was Lisa. I need to check on that because we're getting a commercial Moopsie now, but the people have been for a year now putting out their own stuffed white. I've seen them with sound effects. You squeeze it and it says Moopsie. So, yeah. So I don't know, between Murph and Moopsie and a Tribble behind and Plushy McCoy, I feel like it's just like old home week there of the ought to be toys. Right. I saw this, John. I was going to get into it. An old graphic about Netflix streaming hours on Star Trek. Right. It dates from 2121 to 2122. Season 1 of TOS. Season 1 of Enterprise was huge. Overall TNG, sure. Oh, yeah, the baton was handed off a long time ago. That surprised people. It feels like they went from bashing TNG as the interlopers and the upstarts to that. Hey, Carl, I mentioned this at the very beginning, just in passing. It's season 2 already released in French, right? And now there's a kerfuffle about whether to report on it or pretend it didn't happen and try not to spoil it versus the people, hey, it's out there on an official channel. It's clear somebody contractually messed up. Oh, I just love it when the newbies touch Star Trek for the first time. They have no idea what they're getting in on. I don't care whether it's a corporate person in some department or it's a new hotel hosting a TrekCon for the first time. Their people have no idea what they're getting in for. And that's a pretty big swath. I'm not going to pay attention. I want to deal with it when we could all deal with it openly. If I was really devious and if I was really bored elsewhere and I had tons of time, I might get it and run it through, get a French friend or someone to translate it for me, and then, I don't know, do it. Since I don't know French myself, and I can't just sit there and translate automatically. Do some kind of a transcriber, sometime a translator. But I don't have that kind of time. I need to be watching the Discovery screeners, much less the French Prodigy. But as the big picture of things, it's just, it takes me back to the exact opposite, which is when the very much English standard versions of Discovery were going to premiere in Europe. Remember that? And Paramount Plus came along and yanked, and everybody in the UK and English-speaking Europe were incensed at the ineptness. And one arm of Paramount's reach was incensed at the other arm of Paramount because the actors and marketing and licensing had all just promoted the show in England. And then 2 days later, oh, sorry, tease. No, you'll have to wait 9 months. Meanwhile, the US will be watching things on schedule. And the internet will too. That was a cluster. This isn't quite that big, and it's kind of the reverse. But it's a bit of a cluster. But no, I'm not going to pay attention, or and I'm not being Pollyanna here. It's just kind of impractical. It's just kind of ridiculous. I'm saying. TOS will become quaint over time. Well, hey, Di, there are people that probably call it quaint now, but I'm betting they're the people who are older than the people that are saying it's unwatchable. See, this is what I thought, Narda, but then, see, we're sharing our time here. It'll always be need to watch. I mean, at some point, people need to see who the original Richard Daystrom was. Oh, Daystrom Institute was named for somebody? We need to see what the original Jeffries tube looked like. Yeah. But I think Beatrice has got the right idea. For an 11-year-old who was not being bribed by her parents, she had her run of the entire original show. Very interesting. Keep your eye on that girl. In another 5 or 10 years, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Hey, everyone. Rose, in 9 days' time, think what's going to be on Paramount Plus? Yes. And we're saying good evening back at you in the UK. Yep, 9 days, Discovery premieres. We'll see what's going on. Sherry, strange news, been a fun ride for you, and it does remind you of TOS so very much of the time. And I love looking for our people. Well, one thing is they do tones. They do a whole rainbow of emotional story formats. They got comedy. They got the courtroom drama. They got the the weird shit show. They have horror. Did I say courtroom drama? They have the wacky show, not just a comedy, but and the serious drama and the serious thematic issue. And they do their little canon deep dive too. The yeoman that died on Rigel 7 coming back was just amazing. And Cybok. Cybok is lurking out there on the Vulcan prison planet. I say prison in air quotes. Well, there you go. Good deal. And you and Rose and Don and Dave, everyone's agreeing. It's a love fest today. Yay. And see, Narda, you're showing your longevity, I'll say. Right. Hey, Frank, good to see you. Speaking of one of my Treksters, speaking as an old-time fan, I see the new shows as the embers that keep the flame alive. Well put, sir. Collaborations, Larry. Yeah. Oopsie. Although I think it's IE. Yeah. Oh, okay. I did not mean to impugn your vision there, Sherry. And yeah, it is. And sometimes I'm in that lens that fuzzes the background, which is cool. Nice effect. But if you want to see everything sharp. Rose, what are you saying? Should you watch season 1, 2, 3 on Discovery? Seen season 4 designs in 9 days. I can't find out what time it is. Oh, season 5 debuts in 9 days. There's actually 4 seasons. Of course, they're the short seasons. But this will be the first time that's only been a 10-episode season. Oh, Diane, a lot thanks to La Poubelle and her French tutor. Yeah. She was so mad at the desk clerk in Paris that wouldn't let her ask him and talk to him in French. She was so impatient. She's like, I paid for these French lessons. I'm going to use them. You're going to stand there and take it. Yeah. Yeah. Well, see, good on you, comedy, for having a hotel that listens. Half the time it goes in one ear, out the other, if they even smile at you while they do it. Sometimes it's just out there. And then their staff is mad because they didn't staff up and up at the bar or the restaurant. It's like, you would make more money if you would listen to us. And they all have to learn, and then they all get it. And if you stay there more than once in a row, 1 year in a row, then they're better the next year. They just don't understand how a Trek convention is different than a pharmacy reps convention. It's funny. It's funny. Nope, Melanie, it's disco, not SNW. That'll be later on. Anne Marie, waving back at you. There you go. Thank you, Christoph, for setting it in straight there. This is funny, John. Yeah. Paramount had a fire sale. Netflix and 4 networks in France bought it. And no one's paying attention because it's so foreign. See, and our global members here go, why are we like the... Because it's an American company. And it's an American company in chaos, remember. Being remerged and re-unmerged and yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. Well, see, Melanie, I don't know how you can't. Those of us of a certain age, it's where it all started. It's what you grew up with. Nowhere else will you ever have 80 episodes, 79 episodes for 20 years alone, watching them over and over again. We're past that. Even if you say, well, I had 10, 15 years to watch Next Generation over and over again, there were 180 episodes. It's like, it's which is awesome. Yay that they had 7 seasons and on Voyager and on DS9. But nowhere will you have that intensity of repetition ever again, other than we did those first 20 years or so with just the original series. 20 years for anybody, 10 years for me, because I came along. I was not watching Star Trek as a toddler. Why put Moopsy next to Bones? Oh no. It's okay. It's okay. He's already soft. He already doesn't have any hard bones, so it's okay. He's a plushie. But very funny. Yeah, I'll have to remember that. Maybe it's the German Dr. McCoy who's Pill. Right. Yeah, I thought you'd appreciate that, Narda. Longevity. Good idea, Chris. Now you're talking, Christoph. Can I get you in touch with somebody in licensing? That Star Trek retirement home. Yes. Okay, guys, I'm so glad you're looking out for Plushy McCoy's welfare. I think that's going to do it, gang. I'm still sucking up so much of my energy unpacking here, which we stopped to host, Cadet Alice for a few days. There's a shelf over there she helped me put up. We did some projects where she helped me tear down boxes. She helped Mimi with gardening a little bit, weed pulling and moving plants and things. So we had a great time, like we always do. And we even recorded a little something that's going to be up in the next few days. So you might want to look for that if you're a Cadet Alice fan. We need to finish posting the rest of season 1 as well. But there's a lot of things we need to do. What's exciting to me now is, and I think we're basically done with today as the chat winds down, end of the chat. She sure is, Sherry. Thank you. Boom. I will say thank you. She certainly is. But here's the thing, gang. Yes, I have a Trex tour on Friday. So if you're going to be in the LA area and you've got a day to spare, business or pleasure, get with me early. People have been hitting me on like 7 days notice, and sometimes it doesn't work. And hopefully our occasional rains we love this rain. They're building more and more storage for the water, the storm water. So hopefully a dent against the next drought period. But be great to get back to the Trek season again, the tour season again. This weekend is WonderCon, which is baby San Diego Comic-Con. WonderCon in Anaheim at, Starfleet Academy, Starfleet headquarters, the Anaheim Convention Center. I'm going to be there Saturday with the great James Kerwin, a panel from 7 to 8 in the evening, room 209. Yes, one of my favorite topics, Star Trek canon smoothing and gap filling. My term for retconning, basically, except gap filling isn't even retconning. Gap filling is when there's nothing there. What do you fill it with? What's your best guess, Sulu? So if you're there for WonderCon, oh no, are we a little choppy? We'll see. If you're there for WonderCon, come by, make sure and be there with us from 7 to 8. The big Star Trek show that day is mid-afternoon. They're going to be spotlighting Discovery and Strange New Worlds, I believe, with cast and crew there, middle of the afternoon. Not quite the same trauma-inducing stampede that Hall H is at Comic-Con San Diego. It's a little more laid back because it's little WonderCon. It's the little brother. And I'm looking forward to being there all day, seeing the big Star Trek show in the afternoon, and then hang on for 2 or 3 more hours, and we'll be with you at 7 to 8 in room 209. James Kerwin. A little trivia, some prizes even. So WonderCon and that, and I'm going to be back at Will Rogers finally to get caught up there too. So the tunnel of moving is finally over, even though we've got tons of work to do. And I can't wait. Can't wait to be back with you all. Discovery will be back. And yes, we'll be starting up the first time I've done second opinions for Disco. It's been so long in Crossing. We started doing second opinion, Dr. Trek's second opinion. It's not a hot take. It's not a fast take. It's a second opinion after the dust settles. And that'll be following on next weekend too. So everything's gearing up. Everything is gearing up for 2024. And I hope things are gearing up for you too. So look, once again, a huge thanks to all of our Patreons. Thank you all so much, our live wires and our TTLers. You too can become a helper, a supporter there at patreon.com/TreklandLive. Thank you so much for doing that. Again, if you're thinking about a Trex, get in touch with me, and I would be happy to talk to you about it. All right, your own customized away mission, Yahoo. And of course, don't forget the new Trek Files is up. We've got 3 more episodes after this week, and we'll have our season 11 hiatus, but we're building to a season 11 finale. We've got something cool coming your way, and it refers to something I was talking about today. So until then, check me out. All the socials, Larry Nemechuk on Twitter /X. And Larry's Trekland on YouTube. Like and subscribe. And Facebook. And especially Instagram for the fun stuff. Portal47.net. Do I have you curious yet? It's like a mini con all year long. No matter where your center seat is. We were Zooming in 2015. Well, we were free conference calling. And bringing everybody close together to get backstage to all your favorite sound stages and starships the way nobody else did. And I'd like to think maybe we've helped push the revolution in paying attention to all those creatives. Although the world at large still can't go as low as deep, I should say, as we have with some of the backstage creatives. That's like a fifth of who we've had since 2015. Yeah. Been great to be with everybody as always. I've got to dive in and do some more post-moving stuff now. So thanks everybody for joining us again. And spread the word, would you please? Thank you for liking and subscribing. And please share TTL when you see it and when you see the socials pop up later on. Again, we're going to watch this. We're going to watch this vibe. Here's a marker that I'm setting down to see. Are we about to be into the great swing back to the 60s and TOS and all things there? We'll see. Gang, please, thank you so much for being here. Enjoyed seeing everybody. And yeah, just, stay healthy, do all the things, please. Stay woke, check the sources, and trek well.